support is also good. So because of all these features, ASP.NET MVC4 is being used for web application development. Okay. So if you see this slide, you'll understand that nowadays in the market, there are many devices that have come up. You have your mobile phones, you have your laptops, you have your tablets. When you create a web application, the current scenario says that you have to create a web application for your mobile, you have to create a web application for your desktop, and you have to create a web application for your tablet. But if the web application is serving the same functionality, there is a tedious job of you going ahead and maintaining these applications, because the UI and the code base is separate for all these applications, though the functionality is same. So this is tedious, it is time consuming. Code maintenance is a headache because there are different code bases and there are different UIs for these devices. So we need to cut down on these costs, we need to cut down on our code maintenance, we need to cut down on our testing efforts. That's why the need of the hour is that why don't we have a single code base, and why do not we have separate user interfaces for these devices? So our main aim is that we just manage the business logic and let there be different UIs created for specific devices like tablets, the PCs, and the mobiles. And this is where ASP.NET MVC4 will play a major role. ASP.NET MVC4 with its new set of features allows us to have a single code base. You manage your business logic at one place and you create specific UIs for various devices, so that the only part to maintain is user interface, and that too it can be handled using simple markup tags. You do not need to worry about how am I going to handle the business logic for a particular device. The only concern is how will I create a separate UI, which is very easy for these devices. So let us see a sample application which is developed in ASP.NET MVC4. Okay, so this is our ElectroStore MVC application. It is, if I run the project, I have anyways kept it as a startup project, and I have kept Internet Explorer as my default browser. So I press Ctrl F5 and run the application. Here I have my application up and running. That is the ElectroStore MVC based application. This application is basically a shopping site wherein you can shop for your electronic gadgets. And for the demo purpose, I have created the landing page as the mobiles section. So this is the ElectroStore application. The demo application, which would be further enhanced to work on the mobile devices. So you have the landing page, that's your home page. This is your set of categories, which is the electronic categories, gadgets category. Then because this is the landing page wherein I am going to buy mobiles, I have the options to select the companies, I have the options to select the features, and finally I have a detailed overview of what are the features in a specific mobile, what is the company, what's the model, the memory, what's camera, and all that, and finally the buy now. button. So my landing page is giving me a lot of information about what are the categories in the electronic gadgets, what are the features I have to select, the search results, and finally a tabular view of the devices. The About page tells us about what ElectroStore is, and the Contact page you will have to enter your name, your email ID, your mobile, what type of query you want to go for, notes, and you submit. So this is a sample demo application called as ElectroStore, where I have created just to show that how application development is being done in ASP.NET MVC4. So if you have to go to see the structure, I have used a database. So my database and all the data logic is stored in the app data folder. Then whatever configuration files are required for my project, they are present in the app start folder. My site requires theming. So the themes, the CSS files, the style sheets, all of these related to the site are kept in the content folder. Now comes the MVC pattern, controllers, which is going to take care of the user inputs, which is going to take in the data from the database. This is the home controller. I will require one controller to take care of my user inputs and query the database. Then I have my images folder, wherein these are the images required across the site. I have my models folder. Here is where my domain is represented, and this ADO.NET entity model is being mapped to the electronics item database. So here I have my models. These are all the jQuery files which I would be requiring for my application. And finally the views. Okay, the views are in razor sharp syntax, and the home contains all the views related to the home page, the contact, and the about page. And shared, in the shared folder we have the views or the layout and the structure which will be used across the entire application. So this is my ASP.NET MVC project architecture or the folder. Okay, so now just let us see what we have in index.chtml. And I would also open the home controller.cs. So home controller has got an object to connect to the database. Okay, and finally you have these methods which will take the action result, it will take the view, and finally it will take the set of items which need to be rendered onto a page of index. So once, if you see the database, I have a table named as electro item, and I have stored the values for these two items into my database. Okay, now my job is that the controller, I code in such a way that the controller decides what view to return and what set of items to be returned to be rendered into the view. So this is handled by the home controller logic. And this is the index view, wherein you have the set of categories written. Here you have the set of options that you saw on the first page. And finally, we are writing the razor sharp syntax, which is a mix-up of the code language and the markup language together to get the items from the database. We are returning a model, and from the model we are able to fetch the data. So this is the code that we have written. We are iterating through every item, and the items will be displayed respectively in these tables. So finally, when the view is rendered, it is the index view, where you have your list of categories, you have the features, and these two items are rendered from the database. So this is the only logic for the index page. The home page and the contact page are similar HTML pages where there is no data pulling. The home page pulls the data from the database. Now if I go to see this site in the normal browser of a mobile, so what I would be using is an Opera mobile emulator. I would be launching one of the profiles. And if I go to see this site on the screen, I do not get a good view of the site. I have to zoom in, navigate to the page, again zoom out, come back. If I click on the About section, again I have to zoom in. Then the header is not in place. If I go onto the contact page, the elements are out of the screen. Again I have to zoom out, zoom in. So the screen is not well adapted to work on mobiles. Now how does ASP.NET MVC 4 and jQuery Mobile make such an application which is going to render onto this mobile? So I would be closing my emulator and going back to my presentation.